Welcome to China Events, I am Jason. Since the outbreak of the Russia-Ukraine conflict, Arab countries, which the US had seen as tools to suppress Russian energy exports, have revolted almost en masse and no longer take US directives seriously. As a result, the US wants them to increase oil production to hedge against the volatility in oil prices caused by the Western oil embargo on Russia. OPEC+, however, is standing in the same trench as Russia, assisting Putin in dealing with Western sanctions by cutting production. With the emergence of a wave of reconciliation in the Middle East, achieving a situation of long-term regional stability is no longer a dream. Without worries, Saudi Arabia and other Middle Eastern countries no longer give face to the United States. According to The Observer on June 30, three major Western media outlets, Bloomberg, The Wall Street Journal and Reuters, just ate behind closed doors again at OPEC+. In the near future, OPEC+ members and some major international oil companies will meet in the Austrian capital Vienna to discuss the oil industry and its prospects. Some foreign media reports said that the representatives of the participating countries are also expected to discuss the global energy crisis and how to take joint action after the Western sanctions against Russian oil exports at the meeting. It is reported that the above-mentioned Western media had already received the invitation to cover the meeting, but then it was withdrawn. In this regard, these media have expressed dissatisfaction with OPEC's move, but the OPEC Secretary General said in response, "This is our turf and we decided to implement the media strategy in this way." In addition, the Financial Times reported that the ban on certain Western media was instigated by Saudi Energy Minister bin Salman. This is the second time since June this year the three Western media were sidelined by the OPEC member states meeting. According to the British media, this should be the OPEC boss Saudi Arabia to make the decision. Apparently, it is because the above-mentioned American and British media are notorious for often talking about other countries' domestic affairs for certain political needs, so they were rejected from the OPEC meeting. Obviously, the Saudi Arabia refused the invitation of several US and British media, and it is not these media that were hit in the face, but the master behind these media. The US media, which has always been arrogant and domineering in the international community, actually ate OPEC's closed door twice in a month, which is a disgrace to that group of elites in Washington. The Biden administration has already harbored an evil fire because of the disobedience of Saudi Arabia and other allies. Now, the Saudis are actually interested in shutting out the US and British media, and those in power in Washington are obviously anxious. According to The Observer, the US government is considering a bill that threatens to allow relevant agencies to seize OPEC+ assets in the US if those countries' price-fixing behavior is proven. The US move seems to be a bit of a bluff. After all, their freezing and seizure of Russian assets in the US has left the US reputation in shambles internationally. If their assets are seized at this time because of the disobedience of Saudi Arabia and other allies, then the US may not be able to mix in the international capital arena in the future. Because this blow to the US financial and capital markets, I am afraid that the seizure of these allies' assets cannot make up for. As we all know, after the outbreak of the Russia-Ukraine conflict, the US hoped that Saudi Arabia and other countries would increase oil production to match the West's actions to limit the price of Russian oil exports and to create more favorable conditions for the West to ease inflation. However, since October last year, Saudi Arabia and other OPEC+ members have been in and out with Russia, announcing two production cuts, and international oil prices, which had been easing, have soared again. In this regard, the White House administration officials complained that OPEC's move, so that the US and European countries to reduce inflation efforts to the waist. Apparently, the US and British media were humiliated by Saudi Arabia, may just be the fuse for the US to consider introducing a related bill, because the United States has long wanted to give these disobedient allies some color. It is no wonder that the OPEC+, led by Saudi Arabia, refuses to continue to be manipulated by the US on the issue of increasing or decreasing oil production and the risk of collapse of the hegemonic petrodollar system. However, such a move, which concerns the reputation and credit of the United States, Washington politicians, even if they are crazy, must think twice before acting. So the threat to seize OPEC countries' assets in the US should just be a bluff. At best, it is sending a warning signal to Saudi Arabia and other countries, forcing them to continue to act as puppets at the mercy of the United States. But the question is, will Saudi Arabia and other countries, which are already free from dependence on the US, continue to do Washington's bidding?